We are pain, that's all. We are God.
Hey guys! This video will be a Pokemon and Naruto crossover movie. This is what if Naruto sets out to find the legendary Pokemon of space and time. Naruto somehow finds himself in another world, and desperate to find a way home he sets out to look for Dialga and Palkia, the legendary Pokemon of space and time. But as time progresses, Naruto begins to ask the question of why leave? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe and check the author in the description. Let's start. Chapter 1, A Fresh Start. There are many things people just shouldn't do, like ever, extreme emphasis on the ever. From first-hand experience, Namake's Naruto could tell you dimension hopping is just something no one, in their right mind at least, should do. It was crazy, idiotic, and one of the few things the blonde actually had second thoughts about. Defeating a god, and saving an entire nation he could definitely do, and with ease, but somehow sending himself into another world, in which these animals fought battles for them, was an entirely different story, literally. It took him one incredibly long year, and 1,000 shadow clones to finally adjust to the new language, culture, and fighting practices. He'd found out he'd been transferred to this place called the Sinnoh region, and that two legendary Pokemon, Dialga and Palkia, just might be the key in bringing himself back home. So finally, after a month or two, of studying the unknown hieroglyphics and going through what seemed like endless textbooks, the blonde set out on his new journey, trying to find the two legendaries in hopes of them lending him their assistance. Fight, Psycha, Sacred Flame! Naruto cried, throwing his Pokeball up in the air. The red and white orb opened with a red flash, and a soft cry was heard, before a beautiful nine-tailed fox strutted onto the battlefield. Its fur glowed softly, its tails seeming to sway in some type of ghostly wind. Your move, Faulkner! The whiskered blonde called, a confident smirk on his face as he faced off against his opponent. You better be worth my time, kid. The other blonde yelled, Raichu, go. From his shoulder the evolved electric mouse Pokemon dashed onto the field, electricity sparking from his cheeks. Oh yes, I forgot to mention. With Naruto being, well, Naruto, there was absolutely no way he was going to spend his journey looking for both Pokemon the whole freaking time. He set some time aside to try to collect all 8 gym badges and ribbons, and so far only Faulkner stood in the way of him and his entry to the Sinnoh League prelims. This match is a 3-on-3 battle with challenger Naruto versus gym leader Faulkner. The robotic referee announced. Only the challenger is allowed to make substitutions. The battle ends when all 3 Pokemon are unable to battle. Yeah. The whiskered blonde interrupted overeagerly, dismissively waving his hand, begin the match already. With a tick mark, which somehow appeared, on the robot's forehead, the ref did just that. Jump! Naruto ordered, and Ninetales did so without a moment of hesitation, leaping into the air, well over 5 feet off the ground. Raichu use! Naruto clapped his hands once, halting the gym leader mid-sentence. The man blinked before letting out a confused, wah. Psycha dashed towards Raichu, a tunnel of flames surrounding her body instantaneously, so hot it was leaving in waves. Her extra height made her go down faster, and when added with quick attack she appeared to be nothing but an orange blur, or a mini meteor. Faulkner's eyes widened momentarily in surprise, before he quickly regained his composure. Raichu dodge. Rai. Naruto clapped thrice and the Ninetales let out a burst of hot flame from her mouth, a flamethrower, hitting the electric mouse directly into the chest, before slamming into it, flame wheel and all. It was a beautiful show by Psycha that left even the seasoned gym leader momentarily stunned. Raichu is unable to battle, Ninetales wins. The robot announced, still looking slightly peeved that the blonde had interrupted him earlier. Raichu return. Faulkner breathed, before looking back up towards his blonde counterpart. You're good, I obviously underestimated you. Psycha did all the work. Naruto grinned, she's the one you underestimated, not me. The gym leader smirked, I underestimated both of you, he compromised, before pausing dramatically, but now. I won't hold back. Let's hope so, I don't like it when I win too easily. Naruto glanced at Psycha, who was gazing back at him expectantly. Well, we don't like it when we win too easily. In the end Naruto did have to recall Psycha, not because she fainted, but because she was tiring. After getting paralyzed by Electivire she had lost a lot of her juice. So Naruto had to substitute her with Kiyomi, beautiful child, his Leafian, and the second Pokemon he ever caught. The grass Pokemon made short work with the rest of the match. Even with Electivire knowing Fire Punch, it couldn't save him from the devastation of Kiyomi's grace, or Naruto's leadership. After sending out his Luxray, Faulkner could only smile as it was just as quickly brought down by Kiyomi. I haven't had a battle like this since Ash. I would love to see you two battle against each other, was his last thought before the referee called the match. A few days later, there must be something, anything. The blonde muttered, his gaze traveling over the ruins, his expression close to desperate. Beside him stood his male Luxray, Raiden, whom was generating some electrical charge to keep Naruto's lantern lit. The said whiskered blonde's fingers traced the ancient script etched into the rock. The unknown seemed to be staring back at him as he read over each of them carefully. It was easy to mistake one thing for another in the ruins, and one mistake in the translation could mess the whole sentence up, something the stressed-out former shinobi just didn't need. The blonde jolted when Raiden let out a warning growl. Naruto turned just in time to see a female figure turn the corner entering his field of vision, but unfortunately the light of his lantern didn't reach her face, so all he had to go by was the figure's outline. Raiden let out another snarl, almost instantly moving in front of Naruto in a protective crouch, electricity gathering in its mane. Down! The whiskered blonde ordered softly, the Pokemon's muscles loosened visibly, but his stance remained unchanged. Who are you? Naruto ventured, his unoccupied hand reaching for his hidden kunai. What are you doing here? I can ask you the same thing. The figure answered back, before stepping into Naruto's lantern's light. The person was indeed a female, very much a female. She wore all black, her blonde hair was long enough to reach her back. One bang was swept across her eye covering it from view. She looked about 20ish, no older than 25. Her eyes were piercing gray, and even with her relaxed posture, it was obvious she was a fighter of some sort, or at the very least some type of athlete. I'm Naruto. The whiskered blonde set his hands up in a surrendering gesture. He didn't want, nor was he looking for a fight. I'm here to study the ruins. It was a half-truth at least. So you're a researcher? Well, more like a trainer with too much time on their hands. I don't think any normal trainer would be able to read those ruins. Well, I never said I was normal. Naruto said with a somewhat nervous laugh. Sorry, but I didn't quite catch your name. The woman's lips quirked up slightly as she answered, it's Cynthia. Cynthia? Naruto repeated, brow crinkling slightly, the name sounded somewhat familiar to him. Okay Cynthia, well since you're out here too, wanna look around these ruins with me? As you can guess, the next few days Naruto spent it talking to Cynthia about the two legendaries he sought. It had taken him the most of the first 2 days for her to open up a little bit and trust him, but his infectious smiles and lame jokes were soon her undoing. They both swapped information and stories, of course though, Naruto didn't give her his reasons, not only because it would make him sound insane but also because he found out he generally really liked the woman, and didn't want to scare her away. It wasn't often Saika took a shine to a person, she, after all, only tolerated him, but almost instantly the fire/physic hybrid took a liking to Cynthia. In fact, all his Pokemon minus only Raiden, that loyal stick in the mud, liked her, loved her in fact, something that had delighted Naruto. After all, his Pokemon were like his family now, and with Cynthia becoming something close to what he'd call a friend, he was beyond elated she'd won their approval. So how long did it take you to learn the unknown language? Cynthia asked, stirring her drink almost lazily with her right hand. She'd brought this topic on after the duo had talked about the legendary Giratina, another Pokemon Naruto was interested in meeting. The said blonde smiled at her from across the table. Would you believe me if I told you a year? Cynthia blinked. A year? No, probably not, but then again I am talking to the guy who somehow spat a fireball at a Team Galactic member. The male blonde scratched the back of his head sheepishly. I suppose you're still waiting for an explanation on that. Cynthia merely raised a brow at him, an action that made Naruto begin to sweat. He could feel the trust lecture coming on. Well, he drawled, it's a really long story and I got time. Cynthia interrupted. After all, she added after an afterthought. You're buying the drinks, correct? Naruto blinked, before opening his mouth to retort, but the words died in his throat when she sent him a look. He gulped audibly, she was looking at him with half-lidded eyes, leaning back slightly with an alluring smile on her face. Oh, of course. He finally stammered, a bright blush crossing his cheeks when the smile turned into a haughty smirk. Beautiful women were going to be his undoing, he just knew it. Gods! Naruto inwardly groaned, watching as she not only ordered another drink, but a triple scoop of ice cream she claimed was the chaser. He could almost hear his wallet crying. Wait, Cynthia. Naruto said hesitantly as he stood by his Salamence, who was looking ready to take off. Are you the Sinnoh League champion? Cynthia looked back at him. Surrounding her were children asking her for her autograph. Yes. He face-palmed. I'm an idiot. And with the lighting of the Sinnoh League flame, the Lily of the Valley Sinnoh League is officially underway. Naruto looked up at the night sky, watching with a slight feeling of déjà vu as fireworks came up from behind the torch in a beautiful display of lights and colors. His finals in the Chunin exams had been somewhat like this. He turned toward Saika, who looked back at him with her amber eyes. We going to win this? 9. The blonde then looked up on the balcony to spot Cynthia staring down at him, a smirk on her face. He grinned back at her, winking once, before turning his attention to the scoreboard. Let's see our first round match. UPS. The electric board flashed pictures of all the challengers. This will be interesting. Or not. Naruto clapped once, and once again, Saika barreled through her opponent with a flame wheel, knocking the grass Pokemon, Venusaur, out. Amazing. The announcer spoke as the ref called the match. Naruto has wiped through all his opponent's Pokemon while using only one himself. From the stands openly gaping, Brock said, damn, that guy's strong. From his sides both Ash and Dawn nodded in agreement, the former although had a more determined edge to his approval as he smiled. The brunette fisted his hands, but that just makes me want to fight him even more. Brock grinned at him. Companion, how did I know you'd say that? Well, Ash, Dawn said, glancing up at the match board as the next battle was called, you may get your chance soon, you'll face against him if you win your next match. Yeah, I know. Ash's smile wavered for a second. I'm against Paul the next round. Keep your cool and you should be fine. His constant male companion said, slapping the young man good-naturedly on the back. In other words, don't pull an Ash. Ha, the trainer grinned brightly, his gaze going back to the now retreating form of the whiskered blonde. I'll beat him, both of them, just wait and see. Naruto moved his mouse lazily over the mouse pad, expression one of the absolute boredom that came with waiting. So I'm up against this berry next. He clicked open another screen, revealing his opponent's strongest was a water type, which caused the blonde to brighten, finally a challenge. Saika had a natural disadvantage, so that meant, see, I told you he'd know who I was. The blonde comically fell off his chair, his eardrums ringing with the sharpness of the voice. Then his opponent and 3 others entered the room, Naruto, just barely, able to regain composure as they came through the door. Barry was grinning victoriously, he's checking my data and thus he knows who I am. I told you the 2 top trainers would know of each other. There's some type of irony here, I can feel it. Naruto thought to himself, as the other blonde continued loudly. But all the data is useless anyway. Barry exclaimed, pointing a finger at the ex-shinobi. And why's that? The darker-skinned one of the trio asked. Because don't you see, I'm getting stronger every single second, minute, and hour of the day. He struck a dramatic pose. Outdated data is useless. Everyone in the room minus Barry's sweat dropped, and for some odd reason the blonde was imagining the boy clad in green tights with a sun. Naruto abruptly blanked his mind. No need to ever go back into that territory. Well, if this was a talking tournament you'd win first prize. The same young man said dryly, while the blonde collected his thoughts. Hey. Naruto blinked, giving the young man in blue a once-over. You're Ash, right? Huh? Was the boy's smart reply. Naruto grinned, offering his hand to shake. I'm Naruto, I saw your match in the Johto League, it was awesome. Thank you. Ash stammered as he took the offered hand, giving it a firm shake. Hey, what about me? Barry shouted, and Naruto just blinked at him. Luckily he was saved of embarrassment when Cynthia walked into the room. Very good, you 3. She commented with a smirk, you all battled very well today. Thanks. Naruto said with a lopsided smile, a smile Cynthia discreetly returned. Why, you're Cynthia, the champion. Barry stuttered, looking at the woman with awe in his orange eyes. So what brings you here? Naruto interrupted before the young boy had a spaz attack. Oh, just to wish you good luck, you're gathering quite a fan base I must say. What? The blonde questioned, tilting his head slightly, unaware that outside looking in from the window was a peeking fangirl, but then again shinobi or not Naruto was never really good at sensing stalkers. The quarter-final match is about to get underway. We have Barry versus Naruto, the winner will move on to the semifinals. The announcer took a short breath before continuing, let's see our battlefield today. The field between both blondes shifted slightly, its appearance changing from the usually normal stadium to a much more uneven setting. Miniature mountains overlapped the field as well as a few randomly put stones. And it's rock. The announcer screamed, for what must have been the umpteenth time of the day. Now let's see what Pokemon they'll use. Skarmory, let's battle. Barry called, calling out a steel-winged eagle onto the battlefield. Fight, Psycha, Naruto shouted, and a fire type appearing on his side in a ball of fire. Sue, get ready for the 3-on-3 battles of the quarter-final round. Barry will have first move. The referee announced, before raising his flags, begin. Skarmory use spikes. Barry ordered without missing a beat. Smart move. Naruto approved, excitement making a spontaneous grin appear on his face, despite how the boy carried himself he at least seemed to know what to do. Naruto clapped thrice and Ninetales released a flamethrower from its maw. Skarmory attempted to move, but if Naruto's training had done one thing for Psycha, it had definitely increased her speed exponentially. The fire-type move hit the bird straight on, the scorching hot flame, sending the steel Pokemon spiraling down, instantly knocking it out. Skarmory is unable to battle. The ref called. Return. Barry called, before giving the Pokeball a pat. You did great, he turned to face Naruto. Your Ninetales is good, but even the strongest fire types are weak against water, go Empoleon. Barry swung his hand in a dramatic motion, use Hydro Cannon. Psycha, quick attack. Naruto ordered, his partner following his command, shooting out of the way, for bristling uncomfortably at being so close to her natural weakness. Again. 9. The fire-type huffed, disappearing in a flash slamming into Empoleon, sending the penguin stumbling back, flippers waving in order to keep his balance. Empoleon used Water Pulse. The younger blonde called, once the water-type regained his footing. Jump, Naruto shouted, Psycha using her momentum to leap into the air. Now Giga Impact. 9. Psycha howled before a multicolored glow surrounded her lean body. Its extra leverage sent it hurtling towards the water Pokemon at dangerous speeds, bashing into the penguin's skull with enough force to cause a concussion. Perhaps he was overdoing it, but going against someone with an advantage, even if it was the slightest one, made Psycha uncomfortable. He needed to end the match cleanly, and quickly. The ref confirmed Empoleon's downfall with a wave of his flag, and Naruto turned towards his partner. Psycha, can you continue? His Pokemon nodded a confirmation just as Barry shouted, go Hitmonlee. Sending one of the 3 possible Tyrogue evolutions out. Begin. Barry pumped his fist, let's show them your power use Mega Kick. Naruto clapped once in response and the familiar blaze of flame wheel erupted from Psycha's body. The Vixen charged at the human-like Pokemon, which sent it flying into the Iraq. Naruto clapped thrice, and Ninetales hit the Pokemon with a flamethrower, crashing into it again to assure its defeat. Hitmonlee is unable to battle, Naruto is the victor. Nice Psycha. Naruto commented, earning himself a proud puff of the chest via the kitsune. From the stands Ash tightened his fist in preparation, while Barry walked forward to good-naturedly shake the other blonde's hand. The semi-final match is about to get underway. We have Ash vs Naruto, the winner will go into the final match. Now let's see our battlefield today. Once again the battleground shifted in its appearance, grass shooting up from the ground. And aha, it's grass. Both Ash and Naruto shared a glance, mutually agreeing that this field really had no purpose whatsoever. So prepare yourself folks for a 6-on-6 full-heated battle. Let's see what Pokemon they will use. Just because you're a friend of Cynthia's don't think I'll take it easy on you. Naruto called, before pulling a Pokeball off his belt. Wouldn't want you to. Ash called back with a smirk. Fight, Naruto called, throwing his Pokeball onto the field. Kuda, great piece. A Lucario made himself known on the field, hands glowing with blue energy, and legs twitching in anticipation. Naruto wanted his Psycha to rest, after all fighting consecutive battles 3 days in a row would tire out any Pokemon. Alright then, go her across. Ash shouted, and a bug, the size that would have made even Sinnoh blink, appeared on the field, letting out a hiss of both delight and battlelust. It has been determined that Ash will have the first move. Wasting no time, the younger boy shouted a command, Heracross, use Hyper Beam. Dodge. No need to tell me that. Kuda grunted telepathically, and with finesse that put even Kiyomi to shame, the fighting type sidestepped out of the way of the beam of light. No need to be mean. Naruto chuckled, earning himself a few raised eyebrows, but he ignored the all-too-familiar looks, choosing to instead clap twice, fully intent on using Heracross time to recharge to good use. Kuda grunted again, creating an aura sphere in his left hand, and seeming to be shielding it with his right. Then digging his heels into the ground, he rushed forward using agility. The Pokemon slammed his palm into Heracross' unguarded stomach, the move looking eerily similar to Naruto's Rasengan. The bug was sent flying, but it was able to pull itself upright, before slamming into the wall. The Pokemon stumbled once, before straightening, its eyes squinting in pain. You okay, Hera? The Pokemon spat his rebuttal, obviously fully intent on finishing this battle. Alright then, Heracross, use Mega Horn. End it with close combat. The aura Pokemon seemed to disappear. It had moved so fast, reappearing in front of the bug Pokemon, hands crossed in front of its face, before it unleashed a flurry of punches. He slammed his fist into the Heracross brutally, his style looking very much like a certain green spandex wearing duos. With a final aura-covered palm strike to the face, Ash's Pokemon went down. Heracross is unable to battle. Lucario wins. The ref announced. The said aura Pokemon only smirked, seeming to be just lavishing in the attention he received from the ecstatic crowd. Show off. Naruto muttered without any real malice in his tone. He really couldn't blame Kuda. After all, he loved the attention too. Ash pulled out another Pokeball, a determined expression on his face. Go Torkoal. A turtle-like Pokemon appeared on the field, smoke exiting its nostrils in a wispy-like motion, as he called out his name in a repeated mantra. Kuda want to continue? Naruto inquired. A firm nod of confirmation and a telepathic, of course, was his answer, and the whiskered blonde nodded at the ref. Begin. Torkoal, use Flamethrower. Tor. The Pokemon howled, its mouth erupting in flame. Naruto clapped 5 times, and Kuda tensed himself in preparation. Coal. A line of flame came charging at Kuda with surprising speed. It was able to skim on his left bicep and thigh, but the Pokemon remained balanced on his feet. Back flipping, he was able to cradle his hands close to his heart, eyes flashing blue for a moment before returning to their normal color. Tell me when. A pause. Now. Without hesitation, Kuda unleashed his Hyper Beam. A few stray flames seared against his fur, but the satisfaction of sending the turtle Pokemon flying made the pain momentarily go away. Torkoal is unable to battle. Lucario wins. Good job, Torkoal. Ash sighed, recalling his Pokemon. The boy bit his lip as he stared at both Kuda and Naruto, his gaze widening when he noticed the way the aura Pokemon winced, clutching its right arm. It needs to recharge, and by the looks of it Torkoal burned him. Go Gibble. Ash called. Kuda. Naruto inquired. He too noticed his partner's bad shape, but his Pokemon knew his limits, and needed to learn to accept those said limits. But Kuda just waved a hand dismissively. I'm fine, I can still fight. Alright then. Naruto grumbled, before once again nodding at the ref. Begin. Alright Gibble, use Rock Smash. Gibble. The Pokemon roared as it charged at his foe, hand glowing. The fighting type couldn't react in time as the tiny hand of Gibble hit him square in the chest, sending the Pokemon back a few steps. Kuda's eyes squeezed shut momentarily as the effects of burn ran through his body. Gibble, used Draco Meteor. Ash ordered, and the little dragon type opened its mouth, sending a small ball of fire up in the air. Can you dodge? Naruto questioned, and Kuda grunted a pained confirmation. Yes, of course. The voice said in his mind, although this time sounded much more strained. The blonde snorted, stubborn bastard. Hn. The Pokemon growled, before a rush of fire shot at him. Using agility once more, the aura Pokemon maneuvered itself around the streams of fire. Once in a while, his palm would face him, making him stand in a stance similar to Lee's. Naruto clapped once, and immediately the Pokemon lashed at Gibble with a sweep kick, making it look like a Pokenized version of Leaf Whirlwind. Gibble, quick attack. Force Palm. Coulda hit Gibble right when Gibble hit him, the force of the blow sending them both reeling. Will you look at that, folks? Both Pokemon were knocked out. Ash sighed in relief and disappointment, while Naruto simply shook his head. Good job, Coulda, you deserve a rest. The blonde said, before taking out another Pokeball. Fight, Tomatsu, Protector. A Galade spun itself onto the field, one arm covering half of its face, while the other was posed behind it dramatically. Go Sceptile! Ash called, as the evolved form of Grovyle appeared on the field, its signature twig in its mouth. Begin! Naruto clapped thrice, and Tomatsu sprung into action. The Pokemon seemed to glide over the field, as his leg erupted into flame, in a fire kick. The Galade spun, his leg extended, to make the Pokemon look similar to a top. From the stands, Dawn's eyes widened, at the familiar display. That's why he looked so familiar. She gasped, and Brock nodded, voice somewhat grim. Yeah, he's that guy who beat May. So he's also a trainer then. Seems like it. Wonder how Ash will pull this off. The skater-like Pokemon spun at Sceptile in its new version of a flame wheel. Dodge it! Ash ordered, and Sceptile had no problem complying, grimacing slightly when the flames came in a too close for comfort distance. Use quick attack. High jump kick. Using his momentum from the spin, Tomatsu leaped into the air, before descending upon Sceptile, leg tensed in preparation for the axe kick. Both attacks recoiled off of each other, sending both Pokemon tumbling back to their respective sides. Tomatsu, however, given his body type, was able to regain his footing much quicker than Sceptile. Quick attack again. Dodge. Tomatsu glided out of Sceptile's way, which was exactly what Ash wanted. Sceptile used Leaf Storm. Shit, Tam Agili. The Galade didn't get to hear the rest, before a hurricane of glowing leaves impaled him. Galade is unable to battle. Nice one, Sceptile. Ash called, his Pokemon just smirked back, crossing his arms and sending the blonde a smug look. Sorry, that was my fault. Naruto said, before returning Tomatsu to his Pokeball. I underestimated them. Fight, Psycha. His Ninetales pranced upon the field, ears twitching in annoyance, and upon seeing her Ash's jaw noticeably tightened. Meanwhile, though, Naruto was smiling uneasily at his Pokemon. Sorry, did I wake you? 9. I'll give you Poffin to make it up to you. 9. How about 2? 9. 2.5. 9. Fine, you get 3. Naruto said, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Pokemon just don't understand the concept of low funds. Oh okay, begin. Naruto clapped his hands once, and Psycha dashed toward Sceptile, its speed even greater than Kuda's, as a familiar tunnel of flame surrounded her body. Spin! Nini! Psycha cried, using her own fire version of Fong over Fong. The rotation of the fire added to her speed, and Sceptile didn't even have a chance to blink before it was knocked unconscious. Sceptile is unable to battle. Nice, Psycha. 9. The Pokemon answered haughtily, tails swishing over the ground. Go Swellow! Ash called, bringing both Pokemon and trainers' attention to across the field. Flying, he's going to have the advantage here. Unless Psycha has it in her to jump a bit higher. Psycha. 9. The Pokemon replied with a wave of her tail. Alright. Naruto stressed before giving the ref another nod of confirmation. Baggy, Psycha leaped into the air, making Naruto's sweat drop at her eagerness. And you were mad I woke you up? The blonde stated mockingly, getting a raspberry as an answer, before he clapped once. Once again a flame wheel surrounded Psycha's body in a deadly dance, and Naruto wasted no time with his next command. Use quick attack. Swellow, fly up into the air. Ash ordered, his Pokemon shooting up into the sky soon after, narrowly avoiding Ninetales. Now use Aerial Ace. The flying type swooped down, his momentum heading straight towards Ninetales. Naruto clapped 4 times, and a mix of yellow and orange fire began to gather in the fire Pokemon's jaw. Right when Swellow was 10 feet away, Naruto shouted. Now! 9. Psycha called, releasing a fire blast from its mouth, and Swellow too into its own momentum had no time to dodge. Swellow is unable to battle. Swellow return. Ash called, you did great, take a good rest. The Pokemon trainer's jaw visibly clenched. And it's crunch time for Ash. Will he be able to pull himself together and back into the race? Pikachu. Ash smiled down at his longtime companion, a determined gleam in his black eyes. You know I'm not about to give up. He pumped his fist. I say let's show him just how strong we are. Pika, Pika. The electric Pokemon cheered, before launching himself onto the field. And Ash chooses Pikachu for his final Pokemon. Can you continue? Naruto once again inquired. 9. Okay, I'll give you 4 Poffins if we win this. 9. Saika called, immediately perking up at the sound of her favorite treat. Begin. You're strong, Ash. Naruto grinned. Not many people are able to get the best of Kuta. Thank you, you too. Let's make this match count. You got it. Pikachu used quick attack, full speed. The electric mouse Pokemon dashed across the field in a zigzag motion, moving so fast it appeared to be a white blur. Saika used agility to dodge. The Ninetales flickered out of existence, leaving Pikachu to only attack air. She reappeared behind Pikachu, fire gathering in her mouth once more. Pikachu used Volt Tackle. Naruto clapped once, and Ninetales surrounded herself in what was becoming her signature move. Jump, and spin. Naruto ordered, knowing that a simple flame wheel, no matter how strong Saika was no match for a Volt Tackle. 9. Saika growled before following suit. The 2 attacks collided in a blaze of orange and yellow, causing Saika to stumble back with electricity coursing through her body, and Pikachu to wince as fire went through his. Naruto clapped twice, and Saika reacted by releasing a fire spin, which surrounded Pikachu in a circular wall of fire. Pikachu, use quick attack to get out of there. Ash ordered, and his Pokemon shot upwards, its speed allowing it to jump out of the fire spin, only to meet the end of another flame wheel. Naruto clapped 6 times, and Saika grabbed Pikachu with her tails, wrapping around the electric Pokemon like a vice, before it began another flame wheel spinning to the ground with a great speed. Pikachu used Thunderbolt. Ash ordered. Saika, just hold on. The Ninetales winced but followed her partner's command, as she descended towards the earth. Let go. Saika released the Pokemon, jumping off of him at the last moment, making the electric mouse slam into the ground, while it landed for the most part, unharmed. Pikachu is unable to battle. Ninetales wins. The referee then added. Since all 6 of Ash's Pokemon are unable to battle, moving on to the finals is Naruto. He announced, pointing a flag in the said blonde's direction. And that is it, it's over. Naruto has defeated Ash, and will be moving on to the finals. Ash made his way over to his Pokemon, a small smile on his face. Are you okay, Pikachu? Pika. I'm proud of you, you battled so hard, huh? Nice job, Ash. Naruto smiled, before offering his hand to shake. I had a lot of fun, and Saika looks like she had too. He smirked, turning to his Ninetales, who merely sniffed at him. Thanks, me too. Ash grinned, accepting the friendly gesture. In his arms Pikachu glanced towards Saika, who met the electric mouse's gaze. Pika. 9. Saika sighed, before reaching out one of her own tails to shake Pikachu's paw. Both trainers smiled widely at the display. Good luck at the finals. Ash said, releasing Naruto's hand. And you for the rest of your journey. Naruto replied. Who knows, maybe we'll meet again someday. Yeah, well if we do I want a rematch. Pika, Pika. Pikachu shouted in agreement, and Naruto grinned at their enthusiasm. From his side Saika only yawned. Of course. And Naruto seals his victory only using his Ninetales and Lucario. Magmortar is unable to battle, Ninetales gets the win. The winner of the Sinnoh League tournament and next challenger of the Elite Four is Naruto. Yeah, good job, Naruto. Ash called, from the stands. From his side his friends merely shook their heads in amazement. That Ninetales is something else. Brock commented. Dawn chuckled. That's an understatement. Naruto gave Ash a thumbs up, receiving another holler from the trainer. The blonde continued to wave at the crowd, an ecstatic smile on his face from all the attention. Congratulations, Naruto. Thanks, Cynthia. The blonde said bashfully, scratching the back of his head in embarrassment, as the champion of the Sinnoh League shook his hand. Saika called out her species name happily, making the blonde momentarily look back to her and the rest of his team. Each Pokemon chanting or grunting their respective species name in pride of both him and their achievements. Even if this marked a near end to his journey in Sinnoh, Naruto knew it'd take a while longer before he found either Dialga or Palkia. But as he looked at a smiling Cynthia and his hyperactive Leafian, he couldn't help but feel this truly was a new beginning. Author's note. So I bet some of you are wondering why Naruto clapped and shit like that. Well, firstly it's because I find calling out the Pokemon's moves to be incredibly slow, and it gives your opponents quicker time to react. So clapping is quicker, which is why he does it. Also clapping signals diff combos for his Pokemon. Chapter 2, First Times. The first time Naruto met Cynthia's grandmother was before either of them had even decided they wanted to begin dating. The Sinnoh champion had invited him on a trip to meet her very scientifically high-up grandparent, so Naruto could maybe gain some more information about Dialga or Palkia. He'd accepted, of course. Cynthia had offered to pay for his flight, which also meant the food. Even if airline food tasted like crap, it was sort of free, right? When they'd reached the lab, after an embarrassingly drooling flight, a short brownish blonde-haired woman had come out to greet them. Naruto had offered his hand in the universal gesture of a greeting. He didn't expect that after she shook it, introducing herself as Professor Carolina, she'd size him up, and then turn to Cynthia, her face in a perfect deadpan as she asked, "You two use protection, right?" That was also the first time that particular sound escaped both his and Cynthia's mouths. The first time Naruto met Cynthia's Spiritome was, to put it simply, embarrassing. So embarrassing it was on his lists of personal, most horribly unawesome, unspectacular, uncool, moments of my freaking short, and pitiful excuse of an existence, or his personal MHUUMOMFSAPEOAE list for short. That moment was even more embarrassing than the time he'd accidentally kissed Sasuke. Okay, actually, scratch that. Nothing even compared to that utter and complete mortification. This was, maybe, just under the time he'd mistaken Haku for a girl. It had happened just after he'd won the Sinnoh Cup, and secured his place to challenge the Elite Four. Both he and Cynthia had decided to celebrate his victory with an ice cream run, which Naruto had somehow ended up paying for. He blamed the pout. They both had sat down at a table, arguing over which was better out of their two clashing favorite food. After insisting for the umpteenth time ramen was better than ice cream by a long noodle shot, Naruto was surprised to find himself face to face with a purple and green wisp. He'd blinked, slowly exhaled, and then proceeded to calmly let out a very manly scream, shooting up and out of his chair, eyes wide and non-existent tail between his legs. Oh, and did he forget to mention that the place they'd chosen to sit down in was her apartment? And that later neighbors would call the police to report a strange noise. And that he'd be shirtless when he answered the door because Saika had burned off his shirt in her laughing fit. Gods, did he hate/want to pee in his pants when he saw ghosts, but unfortunately. The Pokemon let out an airy cry, its face morphing into what could only be assumed as a friendly expression as it soared towards the blonde, repeating its name over and over in a haunting mantra. Ghost Pokemon just loved him. The first time Naruto battled Cynthia he'd lost, not badly, but he still lost. The shock of seeing Saika fall to the floor, too exhausted to even continue standing, had shaken Naruto to his very core. Even if his Pokemon hadn't fallen over because of death, it did not matter to him. He'd failed her. He'd been a good sport about his loss, of course, his pride a bit wounded as he told Cynthia, "Good match," before rushing his partner off to the Pokemon Center, worry making his eyebrows scrunch to form a defined V in the middle of his forehead. While it may have come off as incredibly rude to some, Cynthia understood a trainer's concern, having experienced a fair share of losses herself, and let the matter slide, following the other blonde at a much slower pace to the center. "Saika, you're going to be okay, girl. I'm sorry That, although, was not the first time Saika whacked him on the head with her tails, her narrowed eyes telling him to knock it off, and stop making a scene. Her red-orange eyes were now, though, shining with a new determination. "9. Saika growled, wincing slightly as the movement of her jaw caused the bite mark near her neck to ache. Naruto looked down at his Ninetales, nodding slowly at her words. "Her name?" "Yeah, we'll both just have to get stronger now. I promise next time we'll beat her." Then he'd handed her off to Nurse Joy, worry once again flickering in his eyes, when he saw Saika tense as she was set on the gurney. When his Pokemon was rolled away, Nurse Joy turned to him, smiling reassuringly. "Don't worry, from what I've seen your Ninetales should be just fine with a couple days rest." The blonde had swallowed, a low, and breathy, "Thank you," escaping his throat. The one of the many Joy sisters nodded, before turning back around to follow her Chansey and Saika through the double doors. And of course, that was when Cynthia entered the Pokemon Center heading straight for Naruto. "How is she?" Joy said she'd be alright with some rest, thank God. He sent her a look. Your Garchomp is something else. He shook his head, a small smile gracing his features. Your grandma wasn't kidding when she told me about how strong you are. He flashed her his signature cheesy grin. You're pretty awesome. Cynthia actually looked a bit sheepish at the compliment. Thank you, she said graciously, however her actions of scratching the back of her neck, a habit she'd picked off from him, contradicted her confident tone. It was then that Naruto realized that her hands looked really soft, and holdable, and that he wanted, at that moment, nothing more than to reach out to her and take her hand in his to see if they were as beautiful to touch as they were to behold. Sakura who? The first time Naruto realized just how popular Cynthia was when he'd taken her out for ice cream, again, as friends, yeah right, and just as they'd exited the building, they were flooded by paparazzi and fans. Naruto had been slightly overwhelmed with the huge crowd, but Cynthia had taken it all in one confident stride, signing a couple of autographs while gently pulling him through the throng of people. When they'd reached their destination, the security had finally gotten there, and with the people behind glass doors, the blonde noticed how many guys were among the group, and he frowned. A feeling of jealousy washed through him. Not the type of jealousy he'd felt towards Sasuke or Sai, this was more possessive. Like when he protected the village from pain, only much more bitter tasting. He inwardly scoffed at himself as he paid for both his and Cynthia's orders. Again, jealous? Why was he jealous? When Cynthia had gotten back outside and signed more autographs, and smiled for those guys, he realized just what he was jealous of. And this out-of-character trait scared him even more than her spiritome. The first time Naruto held Cynthia's hand was a month after his defeat. Apparently there'd been a sighting of a legendary Pokemon at Lake Acuity, and not just any legendary either, but of Uxie, a Pokemon said to be able to wipe memories, something Naruto couldn't help but feel intrigued by. Who knows, maybe Uxie might have wiped some of his memories at one point of his journey without even his own knowledge, and seeing a legendary did make for a good story. He'd almost instantly accepted Cynthia's invitation to go with her to the lakefront. Unfortunately, though the sighting had been what he'd expected, a rumor. What was fortunate, was that the lake at night made for a beautiful scene, looking almost exactly like the ones he'd seen depicted in some of Sai's more soulful paintings. This knowledge had caused him to all but drag Cynthia out of bed, forgetting in his moment of awe that since she'd been to the lakefront before she may have already seen the lake at night. He'd grabbed her hand as he hauled her out the door, ignoring her groggy protests. It's wonderful, you'll love it, he assured with a grin, smile so wide and bright it put the light of the full moon to shame. Cynthia rolled her eyes, hand tightening slightly around Naruto's as they made their way through the tall grass to the lakefront. It wasn't that she enjoyed the blonde idiot's hand around hers or anything like that. He was a fast runner, and she had to hold on to him to make sure he didn't get too far ahead is all. Naruto was relieved that there were no clouds in the sky when they reached the lake, the water reflecting both the moon and tiny specks of stars on its surface. Just above the water Illumise and Volbeat were circling the water, the flickers of light from their behinds lighting up the sky like flickering candles. Naruto then realized after once again, taking in the scene, that Cynthia was still holding his hand, she was still holding his freaking hand. Her expression was serene as she stared off into the lake, the light seemed to make her face literally glow. Her gray eyes, looking like pools of liquid silver, and all of a sudden Naruto's mouth was really dry. His gaze flickered back down to their intertwined hands. Holy shit. He looked back up at her face, those eyes now staring back into his. Holy crap. I think I like you. Naruto all but blurted out, cheeks reddening once he realized what he'd done. His gaze instantly fell back down, that sheepish and hidden 12-year-old shyness once again coming back to bite him in the ass. His eyes shot back up to hers almost immediately, wide in surprise when he felt her squeeze his hand. I think I like you too, she said to him, a soft smile on her face as she took his other hand in her warmer ones. Deciding to test his luck, Naruto said, I think I'd like to kiss you. I think I'd want you too. Cynthia breathed, her voice soft and gently coaxing. That was also the first time Naruto had kissed Cynthia, and the first time he'd been cock-blocked by a passing Volbeat who'd for some reason thought it'd be a good idea to help his fellow male by trying to get him to dance over the water with his mate. Let's just say tackle, plus a kissing Naruto, doesn't equal a happy Naruto. But hey, he got to see Cynthia soaking wet, and got to be her knight in shining armor when he offered her his jacket, his chakra saving him from the lake, so it was kind of a win. As he lead her back to the cabin, he couldn't help but smile, After all, even with her wanderlust, Cynthia seemed to have a way of dragging him along with her, if his now wet pants and shirt were any indication. Chapter 3, Keep Calm and Wing It. If there was one thing Naruto truly did admire about Cynthia, it was her ability to remain calm in any given situation. Even the most stupid / ridiculous / embarrassing / odd / facepalm worthy situation. Why does he phrase it like this, you ask? Well, because let's just say the situation he was in was absolutely Hinata blush worthy. Naruto stared at Cynthia completely frozen and mouth unhinged, openly gaping. His face in one of the most undignified facial expressions it has ever been in, which is definitely saying something. He was snapped out of his daze when her eyes met his, blushing like a schoolboy. All he could do was yell, "Sorry," and slam the door to the bedroom. He made a mad scramble to the couch, his hands covering his face in complete and utter mortification. "Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh Feavewoihuioipokupture." He groaned in his head, unable to form any coherent sentences, as well as completely wipe the image of what he just saw from his mind. When the door to Cynthia's temporary room opened, the blonde immediately got to his feet, all 5 of his, so far, thought-out apologies rambling out all at once. "I'm so sorry, I have a tendency to kick down doors and I should have knocked. I brought ice cream, just." He made a couple of hand gestures, cringing back at her cool stare. "Sorry." Her answer surprised him almost as much as the first time he'd seen her finish a whole 2 quarts of ice cream in one sitting. "It's fine." What?" The former container blinked. "Excuse me." Cynthia shot Naruto an amused look, repeating with much more emphasis, "It's fine. But I just, you, bruh, skin, how?" Naruto held up a hand, slowly collecting his thoughts. "You." He hesitated, looking just a little astonished. "Aren't going to hit me?" The champion raised a brow, looking bemused as she said. "No, why do you want me to?" Naruto furiously shook his head. No, I like my face the way it is, thank you very much." "Then don't worry, it's fine Naruto, flattering really," Cynthia assured, turning her attention to the shopping bags he'd set on the table. Naruto watched her warily as she pulled out the tub of vanilla bean he'd bought, his head cocked to the side as the silence stretched. "Are you sure you aren't going to hurt me?" Cynthia rolled her eyes. "I said it was fine Naruto. This isn't a trap, you're not going to send Spiritome after me when my back is turned." Tempting, but no. The blonde blinked, looking positively stumped, his brow crinkled as he stared at the champion with wonder. "Cynthia. She hummed, rummaging through the cabinets in search of a spoon. "I think I love you." Naruto really tried to blank his mind whenever she ate ice cream, he really did. He'd think of other things such as ramen, training, what he'd be having for dinner later that evening, anything else, and it was actually pretty good mental coaching. The only problem was that she'd do something, whether it be squeezing his arm, brushing her hair back, or simply just doing, well, anything, and his eyes would shoot to her face and thus her ice cream. It was driving him insane, so he did what he always did when something was bothering him. He faced it head on. "Oh, an ice cream stand. Here goes. Come on." Cynthia tugged on his sleeve, the usually collected champion looking surprisingly very childish. "Come on, say it. I don't think we should have ice cream today." "Oh gods, don't make that face." Cynthia's eyebrows crinkled, looking somewhat crestfallen. "What, why? Don't back out now, you knucklehead. It's just cause." He trailed off, wincing at her expression. "Don't you dare." His head fell in defeat, because doesn't today feel more like a sorbet day instead? "You piece of s." Well, at least he tried, right? Naruto liked to snuggle, something Cynthia had learned the first time she's allowed him to sleep in her bed. Snuggle, drool, and sometimes kick. And while some may have found this combination to be utterly disgusting, it had grown on Cynthia until she found it all to be endearing. He looked so cute with a little bit of drool escaping the corner of his mouth, and a quiet snore once in a while escaping his parted lips. It made him look so much younger, and the innocence he just seemed to be emitting was squeal-worthy. "Ow. Hey." Naruto scowled, rubbing his cheek furiously, his other hand moving to wipe the spit from his mouth. He glared at Cynthia with an indignant expression. "What was that for?" "Sorry," Cynthia laughed sheepishly, pulling back the hand that had pinched his cheek. "You're just so cute sometimes." Cynthia was good with Pokemon. An understatement, but that basically summed up all she was in a nice short, simple sentence. Cynthia's Garchomp was strong. Also an understatement, Cynthia's Garchomp had never lost a battle as the rumors say, and seeing it in action Naruto actually believed it to be true. Saika was stubborn. And the biggest understatement of the year, no century, goes to this one. Naruto looked on with a flat expression as both Garchomp and Saika butted heads. Literally, Cynthia stood to the side, trying to separate the two of them. Apparently she thought it was a good idea to try a teamwork exercise with both their Pokemon. And so far, as you can tell, it wasn't working out too great. Which was another understatement. Garchomp enough. Cynthia scolded, placing a hand on her prized Pokemon's snout, gently coaxing it back. Saika, she said warningly, using the other hand to press against the top of the Kitsune's muzzle. Both Pokemon glanced at her once, before huffing, turning their back away from one another. 9-9. Saika puffed out, patting away with her head held high. Cynthia shot Naruto a look, and he only shrugged mouthing, "It was your idea." She sighed shaking her head, before turning towards her Pokemon, Garchomp, she prompted, placing a hand on the dual dragon/ground's shoulder blade. "I know you and Saika have a rivalry, but can you try to put it aside just for this exercise?" The shark-like Pokemon looked down at her trainer, she looked unhappy but she gave the blonde a slight nod. "And Saika?" She turned towards the Ninetales who just finished cleaning the tops of her ears. "Can you please work with Garchomp if she apologizes?" At this, her Pokemon shot her an incredulous stare, but Cynthia gave the dual dragon a hard look back, her eyes silently telling the Pokemon to trust her. At the word apology Saika's ears perked, and the dual fire/physic Pokemon was almost grinning when Cynthia continued her offer. "And I'm sure that if you work with Garchomp your trainer will reward you with some specialty poffins." "What?/9. He'll buy you a dozen if you do this exercise." "What?/9. Saika all but sprang up now, eagerly joining at Cynthia's side, eyes burning with newfound determination, and willingness, and adoration for the champion. Naruto looked on, eye twitching. It had taken in 2 months, 2 whole months, for Saika to finally consider him a friend, and it had taken Cynthia what? A week? His hand went to his forehead in exasperation as the realization slowly dawned. He was surrounded by females. Garchomp was a her, Saika was a her, and Cynthia was definitely a her. He was completely outnumbered, and now all the hers were all looking at him expectantly. Yeah. He muttered silently asking the world if he'd always be dominated by women, it was unbecoming to his male ego. Mine was a word Naruto was unfamiliar with, because truthfully he didn't really have anything he could truly call his own. When he came to this world he was stripped of his ranking, even though it was genin it still meant something to him, his titles, his money, his everything, except the clothes on his back, and even those were in tatters. He'd been lost, hell he was still lost, and as he looked over the ruins he contemplated this. Cynthia was off somewhere else in the ancient stones, and her lack of presence left Naruto thinking. Why did she stay? What could he offer her besides a few jokes, his charming personality, and handsomely/sexy/amazing/awe-inspiring good looks? He had no social standing. No one knew who he was. What could he give her? And when Naruto had finally asked her this, she had looked him straight in the eyes, grabbed his hand, and then placed it on the center of her chest. The gentle thumping beneath his palm caused his eyes to widen, as a very possessive and new concept of mine flashed through his mind. Naruto wasn't a romantic person. You could ask anyone who knew him, and they'd say he was as clueless as a rock, a complete knucklehead, and he didn't deny it. He knew at times he could be a little clueless, and he also knew he wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, most of what he did was instinct, the gut feelings that saved his ass more times than he could count. He wasn't a thinker, he was a doer, he was a man of action. Sure, once in a while, the motivational speeches, and epic monologues would come out, but most of the time he preferred the ask questions while punching approach. He liked to wing it, which wasn't exactly romantic now was it? Which was why it came to a surprise for Cynthia when she found him cooking what looked to be some kind of fancy noodle dish, that wasn't ramen, with the blinds to the balcony open, and revealing a covered table with wine glasses, candles, and silverware already laid out. Naruto shot around when she entered the door, eyes wide with surprise. Cynthia. But you're not supposed to be back for another hour. His gaze shot to the uncovered scene outside, and his shoulders slumped when he realized she already had seen what he'd been planning. Well, there goes the surprise. He mumbled. Well, I guess I show, mph. When they finally parted, Naruto had Cynthia pressed against the fridge, hands on her left hip and back, while his forehead was pressed against hers. He was breathing somewhat harshly, the feeling of her pressed against him was completely maddening. It took every ounce of his willpower to allow both of them to regain their breath. He met her gaze for a few more seconds, before cracking a grin, placing a very chaste kiss to her lips. He then reached for the countertop behind him, smile becoming a bit nervous as he handed her a rose, and spoke the words nobody in the village would ever think he'd say, "Happy anniversary." Naruto's favorite part of being with Cynthia, besides being with Cynthia of course, was that he was able to hold her hand. Odd, yes. A fetish? No. He never really noticed a girl's hand before, but then again he didn't really notice any girl besides Sakura, but with Cynthia whenever they were alone he'd take her hands, and just admire them. He'd press them against his lips, his cheek, his shoulder, place them over his heart and wrap his own around hers. He didn't know why, but he just really liked her hands. The hands that would care for Pokemon, the hands that would run through his hair when they had nothing better to do than sit in the hotel and watch television. The hands that would press his face into the crook of her neck after a particularly bad nightmare. Sure, he could name other assets he thought were really nice as well, but her hands were just so, he didn't know. They always smelled nice, like whatever soap or lotion she'd use. He liked to nuzzle his nose into them and sniff. He'd hold her close with one arm, and use the other to bring her hand to his lips, so he'd be able to kiss every one of her fingers. He'd decided after a careful debate with himself, that it was simply because in his world people used their hands to kill, to hurt, to maim. And those who didn't had used theirs to heal the wounded, but even their hands were dirted with another's blood. Her hands though, weren't. They only were used to calm, to love, and when this realization hit him, it disgusted him that one with his own tainted hands should be allowed to even touch hers. She must have sensed this though, because she held his hand now, and brought it to her lips, and held it there for a long while. "Thank you," Naruto murmured, clasping her other hand in his. "What do you think of Ash?" "What? Ash Ketchum?" Cynthia elaborated. "The young man you battled in the Sinnoh Cup." "Oh, well he seemed like an okay guy," Naruto said, muting the television to give her his full attention. "Why do you ask?" "Well, you see many events seem to center around that boy. Apparently he's seen and met many important figures and Pokemon throughout the 2 years of his journeying. It's rather peculiar." "You avoided my question." Cynthia smiled, moving quickly to straddle his waist, pressing her palms to his chest, forcing his back against the couch. "I'm getting to that. You see, from what my sources tell me, he may have met both Dialga and Palkia." Naruto's mouth fell open incredulously, making Cynthia chuckle, as she placed a finger under his chin to push it closed. "I know, I had the same reaction when Lance told me." "Lance? League champion in Kanto and Indigo Plateau." Apparently Professor Oak brags about Ash's achievements to anyone who has a spare minute to listen. "He told me that Ash has seen some incredibly rare and legendary Pokemon. Like Arceus, Ho-Oh, Latios, and Articuno, to list a few." The expression on Naruto's face was priceless, and Cynthia couldn't contain the small chuckle from escaping. The blonde shook his head, attempting to clear his mind. "Okay, so again, why did you ask me if I liked Ash?" "Because we're going to pay him a visit in Unova." Naruto blinked, slowly digesting this information. Should I be worried? He was smacked upside the head for his trouble. Chapter 4, Best Wishes. Naruto sighed, right hand adjusting the pair of goggles he wore on his forehead, since his old headband had been borrowed by his Sneasel, Umbra, Shadow, when he'd been a baby. Apparently the shine of the headband made the little dark/ice Pokemon's want sensors go haywire, so a huge tug-of-war/tousle/rumble later. Naruto had eventually gifted the Sneasel with his headband. Puppy dog eyes had absolutely nothing to do with it. "He's improved." Naruto blinked, Cynthia's voice breaking him out of his stupor. What?" was his smart reply. "Ash, I mean." The champion of Sinnoh region, shot the blonde a bemused look. "Distracted are we?" Naruto's gaze shot down momentarily to the battlefield where both the said young trainer and Dawn were facing off in a 1v1 battle. His eyes although eventually met Cynthia's again and he shrugged. "I guess, he's still a bit reckless though, not that I should be talking or anything, and is it that obvious?" The blonde laughed, sheepishly ducking his head. "Just a bit." Cynthia placed a hand on his arm. "Is something bothering you?" Naruto sighed, bringing his arm to wrap around her waist. "I really am that transparent, huh?" he asked hypothetically, nuzzling his nose into her hair. His mouth now blocked from view, courtesy of her blonde tresses, he whispered to her in a soft and cautious tone. 2 people and a Pokemon are in those bushes at your 12 o'clock. He felt Cynthia stiffen slightly in his grip, her eyes scanning over the overgrowth trying to catch a glimpse of these people Naruto had sensed. Are the paps trying to film us having sex again? Naruto choked and sputtered backwards, a bright blush blossoming on his cheeks as he stuttered, what? Left his gaping mouth. But we haven't even, us, but, that, he stopped, a mock scowl plastered on his face, as Cynthia coughed into her hand, fighting to keep off the oncoming smirk. Hey, that wasn't funny. He growled, fighting off his own smile, you almost gave me a heart attack. The champion only smiled to herself, leaning back into Naruto's chest. She placed her lips on the crook of his neck, murmuring into his skin. We'll set up shifts, I'll have Spiritome shadow the kids. Saika can set up a barrier. Naruto added, just as Cynthia pushed on his chest, causing him to stumble slightly backwards until he was pressed into the wall. Cynthia? He said, slightly breathless, eyes widening when he felt something warm, wet, and pleasant flick against the underside of his jaw. Was that her tongue? He swallowed. What she said, was that a hint? Did she want him to do something? In his mind, an image of Jervis, her all-too-loyal butler, threatening to castrate him if he did something dishonorable to Miss Cynthia. Did this count as dishonorable? Can you sense their intentions? Cynthia breathed into his skin, and understanding dawned on Naruto. Against the wall they were out of sight from where Naruto had sensed these spies, and even if they weren't, it looked as if they were having a private moment, which would hopefully deter these stalkers' suspicions that they knew they were there. Focus Uzumaki. Naruto mentally berated himself. Cynthia was pretty old-fashioned girl. She wouldn't be thinking of that when there were 3 possible threats on their doorstep, or tree step depending on how you look at it. No. Naruto admitted, fighting to keep his voice steady. From what I'm hearing though, they seem to be focused on that Moloetta. The other blonde paused her ministrations for a fraction of a second, grimacing into his skin, her nose just barely skimming his jaw. Well, that's not good, was her dry and very blunt reply, her earlier more playful mood vanishing. When any Pokemon and trouble were used in any context in the same sentence, it never failed to put Cynthia on edge. I can go down there and knock them a new one. Naruto suggested blandly, his tone not arrogant, simply factual. They're technically on your property. Cynthia didn't look happy when she nodded her consent. She didn't like to resort to violence. A peaceful resolution was more her cup of tea. I'll call up Officer Jenny while you do that. Don't bruise them up too badly, please. No promises. Alright, Pikachu use. Not there. No wait, we're innocent, we sweet. Gah. Both Ash and Dawn blinked, sharing a look as they looked over to the direction of the shouts. Was that James screaming just now? As it turned out, these spies were wanted criminals that Ash, Dawn, Iris, and Sillin were all very well acquainted with. Team Rocket? Naruto blinked. Who are they? Cue the face palms. Whenever Cynthia went anywhere, no matter the region, time, or day, she was bound to get some sort of attention. Whether it is by a hormonal fanboy, a fawning fangirl, or the always annoying press, Cynthia could very rarely get any sort of peace. Which was why it came as a surprise to her when she woke up at 10 in the morning, her transceiver oddly silent. The kids, Ash and his group, seemingly gone, probably off exploring, and Naruto also sleeping quietly behind her. No snores escaped his mouth, only quiet breaths, which surprised Cynthia almost as much as the fact that she was only clad in her undergarments. Oh right. The woman breathed, a light blush dusting her cheeks. It was a good thing they'd stopped when they did. She didn't want to take that step in their relationship, just because it was in the heat of the moment, which she knew was something that had, more than once, broken other past relationships. She felt the other blonde's body shift behind her before a drowsy morning was breathed into her hair, as hands moved down to intertwine their fingers. Cynthia smiled, turning her head so her lips were just under his jaw. And here I was wondering why you weren't snoring. Snoring? What are you talking about? I don't snore. Naruto grumbled, pulling her closer to him. He sighed into her hair before saying, Ash and them are out today, what do you want to do? Relax, we have a month till the tournament, today will be our designated lazy day. So we're just going to sit around in bed all day? Pretty much. Naruto chuckled. How productive. Cynthia uncharacteristically grunted. This is my vacation time, don't ruin it for me. Yes ma'am. Naruto said, resisting urge to roll his eyes, not that she could see him with her back turned, but it would still felt really good to do it. Although, what felt even better was when Cynthia spun around and placed a very chaste kiss on his lips. Her next words, though, killed his mood. I'm going to get dressed, make me some breakfast, yes. Naruto scoffed, face forming a mock pout. Don't you have a butler? Yes, and I also have a caring boyfriend, who'll do what I ask of him because I can make him sleep on the couch alone if he doesn't. There are like 5 other beds in this place, Naruto snorted, crossing his arms. I can just crash there. Cynthia raised an eyebrow, her hands moving upwards to trace small circles against his forearm. You can do that, but remember there is only one of me, so, take your pick. Touché. But as it turned out, both Naruto and Cynthia couldn't really do lazy. With Naruto's boundless energy and Uzumaki stamina, and Cynthia with her wanderlust and curiosity, they soon decided to simply walk around and take in the sights. Both of their Lucarios stood side by side. Surprisingly, unlike Saika and Garchomp, and half of Cynthia's and his Pokemon, the two got along fine. Kuda's more quick temper was balanced out by Cynthia's Lucario's more neutral personality, a little bit of a mirror to their respective partners. Their said partners' other Pokemon were back at the house either relaxing, or training, or both. Some had even followed them to the festival and strayed off into the crowd. Not that they were truly worried, their Pokemon could take care of themselves, if the random scream in the crowd was any indication. Meanwhile, Naruto couldn't help but grin like a little kid, as he walked through all the various, yearly round, festive streets. He could definitely see why this place was considered to be such a huge tourist attraction, with all the food stands, crafts, and small side street performances. The whole town's energy just screamed fun. See, aren't you glad we decided to come outside today? Naruto grinned around his mouthful of meat. From behind both Lucario grunted in agreement. Aren't you glad that it was my idea? Cynthia shot back smoothly, giving his hand a gentle squeeze, as she herself smiled mischievously around her soft serve. How do you think Jervis is handling Saika and Garchomp? The blonde snickered, biting off another piece of his skewered meat. We're so mean leaving him to deal with the two of them. It builds character. It causes stress. Naruto shook his head. Hey, it's our vacation. True, and speaking of a vacation, when are we going to arrange one so I could finally meet your infamous sister? The other blonde scowled, gripping his hand slightly tighter. Let's not talk about this right now. Alright, I'm sorry. He said, moving forward to kiss her forehead, but then hesitantly moving back. She wouldn't appreciate his grease-covered mouth kissing anywhere on her person at the moment, so he settled for leaning his head on her shoulder. You look cute right now, he said, glancing down at her more casual attire. The compliment was an attempt to change the subject, but that didn't mean he wasn't being sincere. You don't think I'm beautiful? Cynthia inquired teasingly, and the blonde only tightened his grip on her hand. I think you're gorgeous. What about sexy? Naruto's cheeks dusted pink. Definitely sexy. And perfect? I don't know about that. The whiskered blonde grinned, his smile widening when Cynthia leaned over to kiss his cheek. Those two are disgustingly adorable. I'm practically hurling over here. Kuda stated, well thought, face set in a deadpan. Without the two of us here, they'd probably be all over each other. Kuda snorted, they're already all over each other. Yes, WEL, you realize your telepathy is letting us hear this conversation, right? Of course. Cynthia's Lucario crossed his arms. Just letting you know. I'm watching you. Naruto watched as the Lucario seemed to disappear dramatically into the shadows, before turning back to Cynthia, expression unreadable. You know, you have some pretty protective friends, and relatives. Except for my grandma. Cynthia smirked, tilting her head to the side. Naruto snorted, his own smirk mirroring hers perfectly. Except for your grandma. He agreed. My stars Cynthia, you're as beautiful as I've ever seen you. Alder gave the woman a kind smile, seemingly unaware of the glowering blonde a few feet away. Come on, what do you say we ditch the tournament and go to dinner? Naruto's eye twitched, but he remained where he was. Cynthia could take care of herself, and besides, he glanced at the older man's spiky orange hair. She liked blondes. Hey Naruto, is that Cynthia and Alder over there? Yep. He replied as Ash and his friends flocked to his sides. And she also liked guys with blue eyes. I'm afraid you'll be eating alone as usual, Alder. Cynthia said with a light smile, easily brushing the older man off. And she liked men exactly 4 years younger than she was who had shorter spiky hair, whisker marks, and passed her up by exactly 2.5 inches, in other words him. Naruto grumbled to himself, reining in his more possessive tendencies, trying oh so very hard to school his expression into one of neutrality. He couldn't help that he was clingy by nature, having little human contact throughout his prepubescent years would do that to about anybody. The other champion laughed easily, brushing off her rejection, and Naruto finally took this as his cue to intervene. Well, a cup of coffee couldn't hurt. Persistence will get you nowhere. And I've been looking for you everywhere. Naruto smoothly transitioned, moving over to Cynthia's side. I'm pretty sure this isn't the restroom. Cynthia shot her blonde counterpart a sheepish look. Sorry, I saw an ice cream stand and couldn't resist. Well, I know where I stand in your priorities. Naruto said dryly, before turning towards the other champion. Hey, nice to meet you. I'm Naruto, you're Alder, right? So you've heard of me, I'm honored. I'm sure there aren't many people who don't know who you, so I see you haven't changed a bit. Naruto turned to the side, blinking as he took in a young, short greenish blonde kid. Sorry, but who are you? The blonde asked confusedly, turning to look back at Cynthia, who merely shrugged. You know this guy Alder? Ah. The man scratched his head. I think so, let me see. He sweat dropped. Give me a hint. The young man's brow twitched. My name is Trip. Alder laughed, snapping his fingers. Oh yes, of course, good to see you, Tristan. It's Trip, not Tristan. The boy gritted out, and momentarily his image was replaced with close-in age replica of a pale dark-haired boy, with spiky hair, and spinning red eyes. Naruto shook his head and the image was gone just as quickly as it had appeared. That's so cool. Ash said, joining the conversation. You're battling in the Junior Cup too? Of course. The young man snorted. The winner gets to battle Alder, it's basic stuff. Naruto's eyes narrowed slightly at the odd-hair-colored newcomer even as Ash and Alder greeted one another. Of course the Unova champion had mistakenly called the young man Ashton first. The kid sent off all these wrong kinds of vibes. The young man continued to glare at the champion, his gaze becoming even harsher as he said, Mark my words, I'll win this tournament, and when I'm through I'll also beat you, proving you being champion was so yesterday. And then Trip left. Well, he's a dramatic little bit, ow. Language. The other blonde chided, snapping Dawn out of her shock-induced stupor. Did something happen between them? Scylla's sweat dropped. You can say that. Well, Cynthia sighed, hooking her arm around Naruto's and now basically dragging the blonde towards the stadium. See you all inside the stadium. Naruto is going to be buying me another ice cream. And she's going to be paying for my medical bill once my ear comes off for good. Naruto mumbled, straightening himself out to walk beside her, resisting the urge to smirk as he heard Alder say, Hey, since when was I the third wheel? Maybe this old man wouldn't be so bad after all. So Nathan, how long have you known Cynthia? It's NAR, never mind, and about 4 months. How long have you been dating? Naruto looked at the man warily. If he didn't know any better, this was a 2. Naruto answered carefully. He watched as Alder crossed his arms and nodded. The man, already a few inches taller and buffer than he was, rose to his full height and looked down at the blonde with cool eyes. Yep, this definitely was that talk. You know, I've known Cynthia ever since she became a champion, right? No sir. Well, you should also know I consider her a good friend, and I know a good couple people higher up who could hunt you down if you broke that girl's heart. Naruto, not one to be picked on easily, unless it was Cynthia of course, stood his ground. I wouldn't ever do that to Cynthia Alder. She was and is my friend before she became my girlfriend. Alder stared down the blonde for a few more seconds before nodding. Alright, good, well I should be getting back to the announcing table. Nice talking to you, Nicholas. Yeah, see you. Naruto watched as the man left, a small smile appearing on his face when the man finally went out of his sight. Yeah, the old man wasn't too bad. Chapter 5, One True Pairing. Naruto learned pretty quickly after their first kiss that, despite appearances, Cynthia was fine, in fact maybe turned on, by public displays of affection. Sure, she didn't like make out with him in the middle of the street, there were always children around after all, but she did kiss him on the cheek, and if he was lucky lips, or sometimes even his neck. At first he was embarrassed, kissing in public was not frowned upon or anything of the sort back in Konoha, but people rarely did it. And he didn't exactly know much about any displays of affections, since both his parents and relationships outside of friendship were basically non-existent. So when Cynthia first kissed him in public, it was like dropping a bomb, his cheeks exploding with fire, and eyes widening to the size of small craters, an unintelligent noise escaping his open mouth. Cynthia had laughed at him, before kissing his mouth close, and then proceeding to lace her fingers with his, gripping his hand firmly as they continued, Naruto stumbling slightly, down the street. As Naruto regained his balance, and began to match her pace with his own, he had a chance to eye their interlocked hands, a smile slowly forming on his whiskered face. Her lips, he decided, were just as soft as her hands. Number 02 cuddling somewhere. As said before, Naruto was a cuddler. Whether it be in a car, a restaurant, or at one of many Cynthia's rental homes, he'd put his arm around her and simply relish in the warmth she seemed to liberate when he held her close. He was so proud when he finally passed her up. Even when she wore heels he was about a half an inch taller. He had bragged about it the whole week, enjoying being able to place his chin on top of her head as they snuggled, or kissing her forehead when she woke up. As for Cynthia, well, she liked being shorter than him, his chest a comfortable pillow as any, and his arms warm and tight embraces. She although soon found out that sometimes she needed to be the one to contribute in starting the cuddling, especially when he'd wake up sobbing uncontrollably, and then proceed into curling up into a Naruto-sized ball. It then had to be her chest, and her arms that provided him comfort, and as he sobbed into her neck, she only held him close, running her hand through his hair, while saying, "It's okay, you're here, you're safe, I won't let you go." Number 03 gaming. With Cynthia being 4 years older, there were things that she could do that Naruto was restricted from doing himself, and one of the things was gambling. Luckily though, many casino owners were pretty lax of who they let play their games, with the legal drinking age here being 18, many owners said what the heck, and allowed some minors to crash at the game corners. And this was a restriction the owners wished they enforced now. Jackpot. Both blondes shot surprised looks at one another, before simultaneously bursting out laughing. As it turned out, both Naruto and Cynthia were incredibly lucky. "I bet I can win more money than you," Naruto said teasingly, a competitive gleam in his eyes. Cynthia returned his look with a smirk. "We'll see about that." And they were also both really competitive. Number 04 on a date. Naruto stared at the menu, then back at Cynthia, menu, then Cynthia. "You want to go get ice cream instead?" The other blonde closed the menu with a snap. "Yes please, I'd take that over Slugma any day." Number 05 kissing. "I'm not whipped." "Right. Shut up Kuda, I'm not." Naruto insisted, glaring at the Lucario across from him. "And Cynthia doesn't have your penis in her purse. You're disgusting. You two are the disgusting ones." "I'm not whip." "Naruto, can you stop having a staring contest with Kuda and help me please?" "Coming dear." Naruto sighed, as he walked towards the entrance to their shared rental home. "He's so whipped." I know right." Kuda paused thoughtfully, turning towards the other Lucario before thinking, literally. "I think he does it for the kiss." "For the what?" "The kiss. Hey, where are you going?" Number 06 wearing each other's clothes. They were in the middle of a makeout session, a really hot makeout session, when the doorbell rang. Have to," Cynthia sucked in a breath, when Naruto all but pushed her onto the bed, his lips reattaching to hers instantly. "It's probably just the mailman." Naruto breathed, when they separated again. "We can." Ding, dong. Cynthia sighed, gently pushing Naruto off her. "I'll get it, damn it, where's my shirt?" "Here." Naruto tossed her a black t-shirt. Cynthia caught it and put it on without a second glance, blinking when she realized just how large and baggy it was. "This is yours." Sorry, you also had a black shirt and I just." Ding, dong. Of all days for Jervis to be off, "Put a shirt on, I'll get it." "But you have my." Ding dong. "Coming." Cynthia called, making her way out of the room, and down the steps. She heard Naruto curse quietly as he searched around their bedroom for another top. "Hello," the champion stopped, and blushed the words, "Oh crap," replaying over and over in her head. Hey Cynthia, nice shirt." Lance, Steven, Diantha, how nice to see you all," she said awkwardly, really hoping Naruto didn't leave any hickeys. Come in." She gestured into the house. "Sorry we came here unannounced." Lance chuckled uneasily, as he entered. "We wanted to surprise you." We weren't interrupting anything. Cynthia, who was it? Naruto stopped halfway down the stairs, eyes widening once he realized the champions of the Hoenn, Kanto, and Kalos region were all in his house. Ah! That was the first time Cynthia wore his clothes, and the first time Naruto met her friends. Number 07 cosplaying. Bwahahahahahaha. Naruto twitched as he watched his usually very calm and collected girlfriend topple over in laughter. Oh, haha, my god, she burst into another fit of giggles and Naruto pouted. From the side Saika let out a low growl, not quite believing she's agreed to this, as she shifted uncomfortably in her orange jacket. You two are so cute. Cynthia grinned at the two of them. Are you going to go trick-or-treating? Oh, shut up. Naruto scowled, trying to move his tails out of the way to sit more naturally. These damn tails are such a headache. He muttered. Saika rolled her eyes, her partner's hopes of seducing his girlfriend weren't seeming to work. Would you be more comfortable if I helped you take them off? And that was her cue, with as much dignity she could muster with the top of her head dyed yellow, and fur spiked all around her body, to leave. The things she does for her partner. Number 08 shopping. Lumio City was beautiful. It was also very big, and a very popular tourist attraction. And it also had the most expensive and fashionable style options in what they claimed to be the whole world. In other words, it was Naruto's greatest nightmare, especially with the amount of food stands around this place. Cynthia on the other hand was having the time of her life looking through all the trinkets, and browsing through all clothing lines. She hadn't bought anything yet, but already Naruto felt his wallet getting lighter, and lighter. It also didn't help that Lumio City had a huge recording studio, with the paparazzi's cameras flashing outside. To the couple of older fans who got way too close, Naruto wasn't comfortable. The only upside of this particular store was that they were real nitpicky on who can come in and who can't, so much in fact the glass was one way, and the shop already had their own security guards. Well, at least Cynthia wouldn't need to call her own yet. Hey, what is that? Naruto asked, eyeing the single black pearl necklace with interest. The woman behind the desk smiled at him, eyes sparkling. It's a Tahitian black pearl necklace, they're very rare. A special kind of clam pearl have to be bred in order to get the pearl this color. How much? The cashier's smile continued to grow wider as she leaned forward, obviously interested in the gossip the boyfriend of such a well-known icon would reveal. Why, are you thinking of buying it for the Sinnoh League champion? How much? Naruto repeated. 500,000. I'll take it. The blonde said without hesitation, although wincing slightly as he pulled out his wallet. Thank God there were so many random battlers in these streets. Would you like it wrapped? Yes please. Oh, and no refund sir, have a nice day. Man. It would suck if Cynthia didn't like it. Number 9 hanging with friends. After their first initial encounter Naruto wasn't too sure how the other champions' reactions to him would be after he and Cynthia were fully dressed. But when he came back he was greeted as a friend. Lance, despite all the rumors, was pretty relaxed, and took a liking to the blonde almost instantly. Naruto had actually fanboyed over Diantha for a bit, while he never did admit it to Cynthia. He took a liking to some of the flicks his blonde counterpart watched, many of those the said Kalos champion starred in. Steven was Steven, calm, cool, relaxed, and a lot like Cynthia. He didn't talk much, but Naruto liked him. And despite all their welcoming to him, it helped that Cynthia was sitting next to him and holding his hand throughout the whole evening, making plans with all of them to spend a few more days in the city to relax. And when they finally all left, Naruto turned towards Cynthia and said, I liked them. Number 10 with animal ears, Persian ears. Cynthia smiled, reaching for them, and checking out the headband curiously. She then turned to Naruto and grinned. Put these on. Aren't those for girls? Naruto said blandly, eyeing the piece wearily. No, guys wear them too. I'm pretty sure I saw Lucian wear them once. Again they're for girls. The whiskered blonde insisted with crossed arms, and a mocking scowl. He stiffened slightly when he felt her hand run through his hair, the warning bells in his ears going off as she tilted his head towards her. Please. Her one visible eye widened prettily, as she pouted her lips at the blonde. For me. Fine. Naruto grumbled, taking the headband, and placing it on his head with a pout. He watched as Cynthia's eyes widened for a second before a predatory gleam appeared in her eye. We're buying those. she said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Wah, but, we're buying those. Cynthia stressed, grabbing his arm and basically hauling him to the cashier. God damn it, Naruto groaned to himself, those damn ears were itchy. Number 11 wearing kigurumis. These are sex clothes, aren't they? Naruto asked dryly, looking slightly uncomfortable under Cynthia's appraising stare. From the side Diantha chuckled at the blonde's expense. Yes they are. Number 12 making out. Cynthia couldn't remember when and how this happened, and she really wished she could remember, so then she could instigate it again. They'd just been talking, made eye contact a few times, and then he'd jumped her, she had pushed them both onto the coach, and then all she knew was his lips and the pleasure she felt with his chest pressed against hers. It had surprised her that with Naruto's cluelessness how good of a kisser he was, but then again he was good at whatever he truly put his mind to. She smiled slightly into the kiss when she felt the blonde's tongue flick across her bottom lip, and opened her mouth slightly, teasingly inviting him to play. She felt him grin into her mouth, as his tongue tangled with hers, his hands moving upwards to cup her cheeks, and grasp her hair. Cynthia ran her hands slowly up and down his chest, and back, smirking at the feeling of him shuddering against her, his hands moving down to her sides, as she finally looped hers around his neck. Wow! Naruto breathed when they finally came up for air, he bit his lip and gave her a hesitant smile. Wow. He repeated with a dopey smile, his breath catching when he felt Cynthia's lips skim his neck, the breath from her laugh making shivers go up his spine. Sigh, his eyes widened when he felt her left hand brush against the hem of his pants. Cynthia, we should stop, and what if I don't want to? Okay then. Was Naruto's smart reply. Number 13 eating ice cream. After their first time Naruto hadn't exactly been able to look at Cynthia the same after she ate ice cream. His eyes would follow each and every one of her movements and the lump that appeared in his throat would only get bigger and bigger, along with other things. And for some reason he thought she knew exactly what she was doing to him, well, if her smirk was anything to go by. Number 14 gender swapped. Walking into her room with Naruto shirtless and wearing one of her bras was one of the weirdest things Cynthia had ever seen in her life. The steel-eyed color, blonde sighed, rubbed her temples a few times before simply asking, why? Naruto chuckled, sheepishly scratching the back of his head. I wanted to see what it looked like. I can turn into a girl if that would make you more comfortable. Please don't. Okay. Number 15 in different clothing style. I think you look good. Oh Hardy, har. Naruto growled, crossing his arms. The things he'd do for her. He winced, hoping he didn't look too awful in this pink jumpsuit. Orange was fine, but pink, not so much. Number 16 during morning rituals. Naruto glared down at the tube of toothpaste in his hands. Come on, you can do it Uzumaki, it's only for today. Naruto winced as he released a small bit of green spearmint toothpaste on his toothbrush. Now just brush your teeth with it and it will all be OV. Oh god I can't. Naruto screeched, putting his brush under the running water to rid it of the nasty green stuff, but of course that was when Cynthia had to walk in. Why are you wasting my toothpaste? Why is your toothpaste that awful color? What green? Yes green. Naruto shivered. The color of vegetables, oh god, I can't even think about it. As you can guess Cynthia wore green every day that week just to irk him, and as payback for the loss of her wonderful toothpaste. Number 17 spooning. While Naruto could admit, having Cynthia lay on him wasn't always the most comfortable, it was definitely a position he liked to find himself in. When she'd rest her head on his chest, and breath gently onto his neck it calmed him. The rhythmic beats of her quiet snores were one of the few things that kept his nightmares at bay, and also one of the few things that could actually lull him into a dormant slumber. He planned on never telling her this, though, as he didn't want to appear too clingy, but one day it slipped and it sounded much cheesier than he had planned it to. You're my angel. He had breathed, before blushing brightly upon realizing what exactly he'd said. Cynthia laughed, and moved upwards to kiss him on the lips. And you're my guardian. Number 18 doing something together / 22 in battle side by side. Psycha flamethrower. Garchomp use Draco meteor. Cynthia ordered, turning towards her partner with a raised eyebrow. You know, when you told me you wanted to do something, I didn't think you meant stopping Team Galactic. Believe me, I didn't either. Naruto grumbled, before saying, Psycha jump then fire spin, Kuda close combat, Raiden thunder, Kiyomi leaf storm, Tomatsu psychic, Nami muddy water. And Cynthia. He turned to look at her. Good luck. You too. The champion of Sinnoh said grimly before also releasing all of her Pokemon. Let's go. Number 19 Informal wear / #20 dancing. This feels like someone is choking me. Naruto complained, tugging at his tie, apparently as the champion of the Sinnoh's consort, PSH, seriously consort. It was his duty to escort her to parties and social gatherings, that were held every year or so, to share news, and spread influence. It's only for 2 hours or so, I'll find a way to sneak us out early. Cynthia soothed, pushing back her hair to rest over her shoulder. Steven will be there, you can talk to him. I guess. Naruto then shot her a weary look, and don't expect me to dance, I have 2 left feet. You can't be that bad. I've never danced in my life. I can teach you now if you'd like. Naruto looked unsure, but he eventually nodded, alright. Now come a bit close, not that close. Cynthia laughed, gently pushing on the blonde's chest, making the blonde's eyes automatically flicker down to notice, just how revealing her dress was. It was black like his tux, but more glossy looking, it hung off one shoulder, looking similar to one he'd seen in some romantic movie, and it hung right over her chest, in what would be reserved to most, but to him. He moved downwards to capture her lips in a kiss, and when he pulled back, she looked at him with a bit of shock in her eyes before asking. What was that for? I think I just needed that, now shall we? He only stepped on her feet 7 times after that. Number 21 Cooking / baking. Both Naruto and Cynthia looked at their kitchen in exhaustion. Their little project had turned out very badly with them getting distracted and forgetting they'd left a now very burnt chicken in a pan. Wanna just order pizza? Yeah. Number 23 Arguing. Lance raised a brow at the young man before him. Okay, let me get this straight. He rubbed his temples furiously. You and Cynthia are arguing because you couldn't decide who was going to wear the handcuffs. Fuzzy handcuffs, but yeah, that has got to be the stupidest argument of the stupidest arguments. Number 24 Making up afterwards. Naruto and Cynthia did eventually make up, unfortunately though, where they made up was at Cynthia's grandma's house. I knew it. Professor Carolina laughed, pointing towards the 2 of them. Ha, turns out the tabloids were right this time, oh wait until I tell your parents. She laughed madly before scurrying off into the kitchen. Maybe it wasn't the best time for that conversation. Number 25 Staring into each other's eyes. Would you 2 quit sending those looks across the table, some people are trying to eat here. Naruto liked Cynthia's grandmother, he really did, but sometimes. Maybe I should leave, I heard table sex is really in these days. Both Naruto and Cynthia choked. Number 26 Getting married. So, when are you and Cynthia going to get married? Naruto spit-taked so hard it put a squirtless water gun to shame. Number 27 On one of their birthdays. Cynthia knew Naruto didn't like his birthday. It had taken her a whole bunch of prompting to even get him to tell her his birthday to begin with, so she knew getting him to celebrate it would be difficult, but not exactly impossible. When Naruto woke up the next morning he had blinked, and then stared. Cynthia, why are you wearing that? Number 28 Doing something ridiculous / #29 Doing something sweet. Oh, Naruto grimaced, upon opening the door to see Cynthia on the bed rocking back and forth crying. He backed up to the door and hesitated. Was this the time the man comforts her, or the time he turns immediately around and walks away? Upon seeing her head buried in her forearms Naruto knew he needed to do something, so he said, Cynthia, I've had a bit of an off week. The champion of the Sinnoh looked up, eyes still watery, and Naruto swallowed as he continued. But seeing you turns me on. You're such an idiot. Cynthia choked out, but she had to fight off the smile that was appearing on her face, and thus making Naruto grin madly. Yes, but life without me would be like a broken pencil, pointless. Oh God. His blonde counterpart mumbled, her forehead falling back into the crook of her arm. Is your name Google? Because you have everything I'm searching for. Naruto paused, his grin only becoming wider and wider with each passing pickup line. Did the sun come up, or did you just smile at me? He asked, moving in by her side to put an arm around her shoulder, and of course, then, Cynthia couldn't help but smile. Number 30 Doing something hot. Cynthia couldn't help it, she just had to laugh. Nice one, Saika. She smirked, high-fiving, or tailing, the fox-like Pokemon as they watched Naruto run around screaming bloody murder with his pants on fire. That's what he gets for leaving the toilet seat up. That's it for this movie. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.